How have you been celebrating? You just strike me as a chill guy. Maybe have a couple pops, talk with your buddies. That's about it, eh?
Well, the nice part was right after the victory, just being with the guys in the dressing room, the coaching staff. I had a lot of family in town, so once that initial celebration's over, we got back to the house here and really just had a nice mellow night with the family. And the next day, we got together as a coaching staff for a couple beers in the afternoon. I think the players themselves had a little more fun. Sounds like they got after it pretty good, which they should. But for a lot of us with kids and that kind of stuff, it's just life back to normal here.
Sean, a big congratulations from me too. And I've been really wanting to ask you this because if you look at the story of Vegas this season and the carousel of goaltenders, that doesn't even include Robin Lehner, even without him playing a single game, 5 different goaltenders suited up for Vegas this year, of course. So for you, whether it's, it's Laurent Brossoit, it's Jonathan Quick, it's even Patera for a couple games, it's Logan Thompson, Adin Hill. Was this sort of a uniquely challenging year for you in terms of just constantly pivoting and working with different personalities and different styles? And how will you sort of remember this season?
Well, it was definitely unique, because to start the year, the goaltending that we thought would be our players, it turned out to be totally different. And so, Logan Thompson did a great job for us in the first half of the year. He was in the All-Star game, and then he had some injury problems. We had picked up Adin Hill with that in mind, that, he had some upside to his game still, and he ended up, coming in. Laurent Brossoit had played the year before. So there was a lot of uncertainty, but a lot of depth. And that was the nice thing, is that everybody that went in was not only capable of playing well, but did. And it just showed the depth we had in our organization. So it, not the script that we had planned. Nobody would have ever predicted that we would use that many goaltenders and win the Stanley Cup. But I think it was a credit to our team. It was a credit to our coaching staff, credit to management that they had that much depth in the organization. So in the end, it wasn't, maybe it wasn't the script that everybody would have, but I tell you what, it doesn't really matter right now.
It does not, because you're going to get that ring, of course. Be honest. Do you feel like a proud dad right now, considering your body of work this season?
I do. I just felt like not just the goaltending, just the team in general. It was a great group to be around. A lot of good leadership. It kind of reminded me in a lot of ways of the team in Montreal a couple of years ago, with some of the leadership we had. The Shea Weber was Pietrangelo. I mean, we had a lot of parallels of really good, experienced players. I think we had 6 guys on the team that had won the Stanley Cup before. And what I was impressed with was that it was all business for this team. As fun as it is to be going through the process, it wasn't going to be satisfying just to be close for this group. They wanted to win it, and everything they did, they went about it was with that in mind, was winning the Stanley Cup.
Sean, you mentioned that the cup winning experience. I wanted to ask you about Jonathan Quick, because of course, he's one of the most clutch goaltenders of all time, and he comes into a unique situation, having sort of been left in the cold by the LA Kings. And I'm so curious about what it was like working with him, because even just as an interview subject, he's famously a pretty intense and ornery customer. He's really insightful and sincere, but he can be a bit crotchety, at least from the media standpoint. So I'm curious for you, when you have someone coming in who's so experienced, do you give him a little more runway because he knows what he's doing, or do you still treat him the way you'd be treating any other goaltender you're working with? So that's the first part of the question. The second part, I'm just curious in terms of how he interacted with Adin Hill and Laurent Brossoit and what his impact was on them.
I'm so glad you asked me that, because I've heard this from a couple of people now. I've heard the word crotchety. You're not the first one to use it, and I didn't see any of that. I saw a guy that came in here that was very appreciative of a chance to come to a team like ours after everything that happened to him and the initial shock of being traded and that sort of thing. And he couldn't have been more of a professional. He couldn't have been better for our group. I really believe that Adin Hill, at the end of the day, doesn't play the way he plays without having Jonathan Quick there on the bench in practice every day. So his impact to me, the Barbashev deal was a huge trade for us. That had an impact, but Jonathan Quick had, to me, just as much of an impact, even though he wasn't in the lineup playing most nights. And for me, the way to handle him was really simple. We worked together. He has a lot of experience. there's nothing that I needed to really do with him other than just give him the ability to be a leader, to know he was important to our group, and he embraced it and did a great job for us.
As we mentioned throughout this interview, guys, I mean, the story is surreal about how many different looks you guys had in between the pipes. And again, a lot of credit to Bruce Cassidy and his system as well. But like Adin Hill obviously sticks out, just the way he came in, Berkey, the fact that Laurent Boissois goes down, Adin Hill comes in. From your vantage point, like what clicked in Adin Hill's game to make him sort of that guy that we saw in the Cup final who was bulletproof? And again, the D was great in front of him, but it's a body of work, right?
Yeah, it was a confidence at a certain point in the season, and I can almost pinpoint it myself. There was a game against New Jersey at home. Went into overtime. I think he had to make 7 or 8 saves in overtime. He had an incredible night. And, he was kind of on the cusp of playing really well, but he was battling a little bit of inconsistency. And I think he hit that point where it just clicked for him. And, New Jersey was a very offensive team, good young team, as we know. He stole that game for us. And I think the confidence that the team had in him after that grew as well. And we all know there's the physical side of this game. Everybody's capable of playing well. But once you get to that point where mentally you figured it out, you step on the ice, you can be a good player, it makes all the difference. And that's what happened with Hilly. He just, the physical tools have always been there. Now he's got over that hump, and he believes that, he can be a real top goalie in this league, and he proved it.
Sean, I wanted to ask you just about the big picture of this incredible stable of goaltenders that you had this year. And, we know that there has to be the end of something coming, right? Because there can't be room for everyone. And we don't know yet Robin Lehner's status for next year. We know Adin, of course, is a free agent. Logan should be back healthy next year as well. So is there sort of a bittersweetness there, knowing that you can't keep every one of these goaltenders, because if they're all healthy, there won't be room for all of them?
Well, that's a good problem to have in a lot of ways. It's more of a management problem. I think at the end of the day, when you're part of a coaching staff, your job, or at least the way I've always looked at it, is your job is to help get the most you can out of the players that are there. And there's going to be some tough decisions here. There's some great opportunities. As you said, Adin Hill is a free agent. I don't know where that goes down the road, but I'm sure there's other teams out there who are looking at his name and having some things in mind as well. I think that, again, that position is so important to your hockey club. But I think we also showed this year that if you have a team that plays solid, you got veteran guys, good system, you can work other guys into that, provided that they have the ability to do the job. And I don't envy our organization for the decisions we're going to have to make. But for me personally, my job is to work with whoever's there and get the most out of them.
So obviously, somehow, some way, this being Leafs Morning Take, I got to tie in the Maple Leafs in some way. But you mentioned your time with the Montreal Canadiens. You mentioned the Vegas Golden Knights and getting to that Cup final, getting over that hump. It's been a massive, massive issue in this market for a long-ass period of time. They won a series. Just your experience level in Montreal and Vegas, like what happens behind the scenes? How does everything, come together? And what have you seen from that point of view?
There's a lot of things. I mean, at the end of the day, it's of course the players on the ice. You have to have the players. You're not going to go through and win a Stanley Cup with an average lineup. You need top players. You need veterans. You need game-breaking type players, and lots of teams have those guys. But you need some luck. We went through the playoffs without a lot of injuries. We had an injury to our goaltender Laurent, and Hilly stepped right in and took over. But we didn't have to battle a ton of injuries through the playoffs. We had an experienced lineup that had a lot of guys that had been through this before. The team missed the playoffs last year. So there was a lot of hunger from guys who were like, wow, it's a fine line in this league. You can miss the playoffs one year and win the Stanley Cup the next year. So I think for a lot of teams, it's all those things coming together, and there's no guarantees. It's a really hard league to win in. But if you have the team like we did this year and you get on a roll, the great thing is you can go on and win a Stanley Cup.
Yeah, and I think that's a prime example right there is the Florida Panthers. They seem like a team of destiny at an epic season. At the end of the day, they didn't win. And I think you're so bang on. It's so hard to win this trophy, as you know. Do you have any idea what that parade's going to look like tomorrow night? Like, how thankful are you, Berkey, that they're not doing it during the day, right?
Yeah, I think. Well, first of all, what a great. I mean, I'm trying to picture the lights of Las Vegas in a parade at that time, and
Oh,
what an incredible sight it's going to be. I just hope all our players make it. The last couple of days that there's any guarantee of that, but I think again for this city, for the ownership, for Bill Foley. I mean, to predict that the team would win in 6 years and then to be able to deliver for the league, well, what a great thing that the southern markets now, you guys are sitting there in Leaf Country. It's the epicenter of hockey, but let's be honest, there's a lot of great markets, Vegas being one of them. The league has a lot to be proud of. So I just think we're going to enjoy it. We're all going to take it in, and hopefully we're all going to be make it out of there safe when it's all over.